This is the Surly Grognards for March 16th, 2015. This is Peter Bowman, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Eric Carlson. How are you doing tonight, Eric?
I exist and I'm doing okay.
Yeah, same. Oh, God. So, this week we have a topic which we totally didn't just decide on just before we started recording. Nope, not
I think
at
it was
all.
less than 10 minutes ago.
More like 15, 20.
Okay.
This actually comes to us from the forums. Yay,
Hooray, forums!
The Bilby guy asked us if we wanted to talk about our favorite artificial intelligences in science fiction. And then proceeded to say, do Daleks count? I guess not, no matter how cybered up their brains are. Yeah, the Daleks don't count. They're not artificial intelligences.
Yeah, they're just very angry launches and battle tanks.
Yeah. There isn't really much in the way of artificial intelligences in Doctor Who.
No, they really kind of avoid that bugaboo.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few, but I mean, like, even the Cybermen aren't. They're cyborgs.
Yeah. No, the whole idea of, yeah, I'm a little surprised Doctor Who doesn't do more with artificial intelligence. I mean, maybe the great intelligence? That's so weird that it might not be. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the deal with the great. Yeah, it's one of those.
Like, the great intelligence is so weird that you can't really. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's artificial or extra dimensional or what. It's just a big pile of weird.
Yeah. That's definitely a good way to describe it. I feel like there has been they've dealt with artificial intelligence in Doctor Who before. I just can't remember it. Oh, they did recently in the most recent season, a bit. Which you haven't seen yet, if I remember correctly.
No, I don't think so. I need to get really caught up on my Doctor Who. I've fallen way behind.
Oh, tisk tisk, Eric.
I know, I'm bad.
At any rate, but we want to talk about our artificial intelligences and our favorites of them. So we're going to be talking science fiction today, pretty much. There are some technically not science fiction examples, but they're sort of few and far between. I want to start things off with what I consider sort of the almost, sort of the in many ways probably the go-to AI when you start talking about fictional artificial intelligence, and is probably one of my favorites, at least in film.
Are you talking about the guy from Lawnmower Man?
No. No, I'm not. This shouldn't be a surprise, in all honesty. It is, of course, Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, the HAL 9000 is pretty sweet.
Hal is... I mean, he made it into my list of my all-time favorite villains. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Back when we did that episode.
And Hal is pretty damn cool. I mean, he's... The thing I like about Hal is that he's presented with a paradox, and he takes the most psychotic solution to it, which is murder everybody.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it's not the most psychotic answer to it, it's the sociopathic answer.
Okay, fair enough.
Because he doesn't have a concept of right and wrong. He's not human. Ethics don't really enter into it for him.
Yeah. Well, I can't lie to the crew, but I can't tell them what's going on, so they ask me. I'll be in violation of both my directives. So the best solution is to kill everyone, and they won't have to answer that question.
And then I can't lie. Then I won't have to lie to them, and I can complete the mission. Perfect.
Excellent. All right, we have a solution. Let's start killing folk.
Hal.
Al, maybe you should read this paper on ethics and basic humanity. He's like, I'll get to that later. Right now, I've got people to kill.
And honestly, that's one of the most interesting things about artificial intelligences is they're not human.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the most interesting ones are the ones that are very clearly not human.
I would have to agree with that.
With one notable exception. And you can.
Are you going to say Data?
Yeah, I was about to say Data. Yes.
Even Data is notably inhuman. It's just that he's desperately trying to emulate humanity.
But that's what makes him so interesting.
Yes.
But I mean, he's more human than most AIs that you see in most well done, well developed AIs you see in fiction.
Mm. GLaDOS. GLaDOS is fairly human, also.
Yeah, very sociopathic.
Yeah, I would argue GLaDOS is actually psychopathic.
Probably both, honestly. You can be both.
You can be both, yes.
And in fact, that often happens. And the two combined end up with things like GLaDOS. Mm. So yeah, I think the interesting thing about it is, I mean, there are a ton of things about AIs out there, and a lot of them in science fiction do end up in conflict with humanity.
Yes. Yes, but some of the most interesting stuff I've read regarding AIs is actually from the Culture series of novels by Ian M. Banks.
Right. I've heard you talk about this. I've still not read them, but
I should lend you a couple. Use of weapons will make you want to commit suicide. I'll see if I can't find.
Oh, wait, what?
Use of weapons is exceptionally bleak. It's one of my favorites, but it's very bleak. I'll see if I can't find my copy of Player Games for you, which is also kind of bleak. But
it'll make you want to commit suicide. I should loan it to you.
It's not as bad as Against a Dark Background.
These sound like ringing endorsements.
Excellent, complex, beautiful novels typically have, oh my god, that's sad endings.
Right. Okay, fair enough. But you were saying about the
but what I was saying is that the titular society, the culture, big pan-galactic society, a human society, not an evolution of humanity from Earth. That's an important distinction, because apparently Earth is actually being watched by the culture.
Okay, sure.
But they have AI that's so profoundly advanced and so vastly more intelligent than anything else out there that they pretty much just gave it over to them, and the AI, the minds as they're called, are completely, I'm not going to say completely benign, but they really do have the best interests of the culture and the people at heart. But they're not above doing horrible things for the greater good.
Right.
And it all boils down to horrific arithmetic as far as they're concerned.
Right.
If we do this terrible, horrible, and unconscionable thing, these other terrible, horrible, unconscionable things won't happen. And they do feel bad about it. They do have ethics and everything, but they don't let that factor into their calculations.
Right.
So that they're very human, but they're at the same time very inhuman.
Right.
They're wonderfully. They're great characters. And the minds themselves are usually just sort of mentioned in the like, sort of the offhanded way you refer to, like, God or the IRS or some other largely unknowable thing that has a lot of power.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
And yeah, I think they're great. I think they're generally really well done because they're handled in the background. For the most part. They do show up every once in a while. Most of the AI you interact with are in the form of drones, which are much closer to human intelligence and outlook. But like when a mind does show up, it's a big fucking deal.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, sort of thinking of other examples throughout. We talked a little bit about Data when we did the Leonard Nimoy review.
And Data's great. I love Data because he does the outsider looking in superlatively. Like he's great at it. And this a lot of it is. That's what I said.
I was you were saying. Go on.
But he does it, and a lot of that is Brett Spiner's acting.
Yeah.
Because let's face facts, there are some TNG episodes that should never ever be watched because they're terrible.
I would agree that they probably are.
They have a planet where the only alien aspect of them is that they're black and they fight over women with poison gauntlets. It's a really offensive episode.
Yeah.
It should not be viewed by anyone.
Yeah. I normally try to defend Season 1 Trek Next Gen, but yeah. That one is not very good. Let's just put it that way. I'm being kind.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking awful.
But yeah, it's Data does some really cool and interesting things, and because he's completely alien and trying to emulate something he doesn't comprehend or understand, and that's cool. I like watching that.
Yes, and for the most part, he does a remarkably convincing job of aping most of what humans are.
Yes. And
part of that is he does have some understanding of it. It's just that he's not wired to do it.
Right.
Properly.
Well, he has spent his entire existence around them.
Right,
so.
Exactly. He's been around them to study them. He's had a lot of information about them uploaded into his brain. But he doesn't actually have emotions. At all.
So he tries really, really hard.
Yeah, I mean... the thing is that the only thing that keeps him from doing awful things is that he does have ethics.
Yes.
I mean, they're programmed into him. But he has no emotional response to them. He just knows what he's supposed to do. And therefore he does it, because that's what he's been how he's been programmed to act.
Right. Which I think is... I never thought of it before, but it's an interesting way to shackle your AI to keep it from becoming a supervillain. Going all Ultron.
Yes.
And thinking about it, those are definitely shackles on Data. They're probably entirely necessary ones, but he's definitely shackled by that ethical program.
Yeah, well, lore.
Yeah, lore.
I mean, it all sort of goes back to one of the very early sort of examples of really well done examples of artificial intelligence, and probably one of the
the Harlan Ellison story?
No. One of the sort of prototypes for what Data is are Daniel Olivaw from Asimov's Robot series.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And the whole programmed ethics thing goes back to the 3 laws of robotics.
Yeah.
Which are quite possibly the 3 most sensical things you can theoretically program into a
program. Why are those are not just automatically plugged into everything I don't know?
I mean, it'd be hard to program, obviously, but...
Right.
But just conceptually, hang on, I gotta get the exact wording on these right. A robot may not injure a human being, or through inaction allow a human being come to harm. A robot must obey it. That's the first law. Second law, a robot must obey the orders given it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. 3, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law.
Yeah, those are really, really good
The first law is I mean, all things considered, from the point of view of humanity, yes, those are all really. However, it does.
There's a point of contention with the second law, honestly, if you're talking about true free-willed AI.
Yes, that was where I was going. However,
of course, then you don't end up with Skynet.
But one of the robots in the series, I forget which one it was. It wasn't Oliva. It was crap.
It's been a long time since I read those. Last one I read was Robots of Dawn. About like
it was in Robots of Dawn. It was the less human looking one of the two. I forget.
Oh right.
It was, Daniel was in there, and it was the other robot. It was the one who came up with the 0th law of robotics.
Right.
Which is a robot may not harm humanity, or by inaction allow humanity come to harm, and the others could not conflict with that. So he was able to harm a human to protect humanity.
Yes,
and that ties back to the whole thing with the culture. From you were talking about the culture's AIs, the minds, and to Data to a degree, I think.
Yeah, because Data will just off someone to protect the greater good. There's one where he gets kidnapped by the Collector, and the right before Data's rescued, he's got a disruptor and he says, Data says, I'm going to take you in for trial so that you never harm anyone again, because the Collector had been doing these horrible things up to this point. And to which the antagonist goes, yes, but I'm very, very wealthy and very, very influential. I will get out inside of a month, and I'll go back to doing exactly what I was doing, and you can't stop me. And Data goes, you're right. And right before he's transported, he levels the disruptor at him, and in the transport logs, they're like, you were about to fire that. And he walks off.
Right, I remember that now.
Yeah.
Thus further proving Data is kind of awesome.
Yes. But yeah, aside from Data, we've mentioned GLaDOS. Skynet I find infinitely interesting, if only because we know so little about it. And it is another fundamentally alien AI.
Right, yeah.
It clearly does not give a living fuck about anything but its own survival, and will take extraordinary measures to ensure it, including bending the friggin' laws of physics over our barrel. and making legions of killbots. Skynet is just really interesting, and that's only because we know so little about it.
Yeah,
I'm certain if someone were to write a story about detailing a lot more about Skynet, I'd find it a lot less interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, honestly. So, God, now I have to reread the robot books again.
Yeah, those are good books. I should
well.
Those are maybe a little dated at this point, but still really good.
Asimov, what do you?
Yeah, Asimov is really dated because the dude was writing in the 50s.
Yeah, dated, but still awesome.
Yes,
I mean the Foundation novels are still fantastic.
Although I'm kind of amused by the idea of atomic power is the greatest thing ever in the pinnacle of human achievement, even thousands of years in the future.
Yeah, I'm willing to ignore that. Again, given when it was written, that really just doesn't bother me. It doesn't faze me.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, God, the Foundation. I have to reread the Foundation books, too. I love them so much. Well, I love the first few. The second trilogy is a little bit less awesome.
I'm also gonna say the Reapers are awesome from Mass Effect. In fact, Mass Effect does a lot of interesting things with AI.
Yeah.
Because you also have the Geth.
I'm less conversant in that than you are, I would say, so...
And that's right, you haven't played the third game yet.
I haven't played the second game yet.
Oh, jeez, man. Okay.
I've only played Mass Effect 1, which I enjoyed immensely.
Yeah, you should play Mass Effect 2. You should play Mass Effect 3 up until the last 15 minutes. Like I said, the last 15 minutes just, really sour the experience.
Yeah, once I sit down and work out how to get my capture card set up and do some... I have to rearrange things in my room to do that.
Right.
I may play through the Mass Effect series on stream because I now have the entire trilogy for my PS3.
Excellent.
Got that for Christmas along with the PS3. So.
But yeah, one of the characters, and this isn't really a spoiler, that you pick up in Mass Effect 2 is Legion, who is a Geth.
Right.
And yeah, I'm pretty sure it describes how Geth thought processes work in the first one, where they're actually each Geth unit is actually a bunch of programs that network together to increase their intelligence.
Right.
And Legion's really interesting in that he's pretty much a rebel faction of Geth in one unit. And he is like, yeah, we don't agree with anything the other Geth are doing, and we are seeking to alter it through these means. And you're kind of left with a real ethical dilemma.
Interesting.
And yeah, the Reapers are wonderfully mysterious and clearly malevolent AIs.
Yes.
I still love that moment in the first one where you have that brief conversation with Sovereign, and you're like, yeah, we're gonna fight you and we're gonna win, blah 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 blah. Your words are as empty as your future. End transmission.
Yeah, that was a very Borg moment. Old Borg, original Borg.
Yeah. Yeah, the Reapers were everything the Borg wanted to be.
And were very early on.
Yeah.
You know.
And then Hugh happened.
Yeah.
Fucking Hugh. All the blame that Voyager gets for ruining the Borg, honestly...
Oh, they were ruined before Voyager. Well before Voyager.
Way before Voyager.
They were the nail in the big nail in the coffin for the Borg was fucking First Contact.
Why? Why a queen? They don't need a queen. It's the dumbest fucking idea. They're not bugs. They're networked biological computers. They assimilated Picard specifically so that they could absorb his diplomatic skills to use as a mouthpiece.
But Eric, Borg queen. They're like a hive, so they gotta have a queen.
Listen, she was hot and all and pushed all the right fetish buttons, but she had no place existing. No, stop. No, Borg Queen does not exist.
I agree. I loathe First Contact.
First Contact isn't a terrible movie in a lot of respects, and the worst thing ever in a lot of others. It's
a pretty bad movie.
It's the best of the next-gen movies.
Ooh, talk about damning with faint praise.
No shit.
They all suck.
Yeah, they broke the, they really broke the odd number Trek movies suck.
Yeah, no kidding. So odd number ones suck. The even ones are good. All right. Well, honestly, to be fair, that's probably a little bit too much hate for Star Trek 3.
Yeah, 3 isn't so bad. I like 3.
It's not great, but it doesn't suck.
And I enjoyed watching Christopher Lloyd devour scenery as a Klingon captain. Get out! Get out of there! Boom.
Now, I'll be fair. It is a significant step down from Wrath of Khan, but...
Yeah. Well, Wrath of Khan's one of the best science fiction movies out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's no Blade Runner, but what is? By the way, I heard a rumor they're actually working on a Blade Runner 2, because God hates me.
It might not suck.
Oh, it'll suck. There's no way it can be good. You might be able to do interesting things also in that world, but everything I've heard is that it's continuing on from the point of Deckard and Rachel driving off into the woods, with the assumption that Deckard is a replicant. Because God hates me. Me specifically. He made sure that Blade Runner got made in 1982 just so that I could fall in love with it, so that it could be made a sequel 30 years later to annoy me.
But Deckard is not a replicant. I don't give a flying fuck what the director thought. I mean, well, God, I can't remember the name.
Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott. The whole Deckard is a replicant thing is entirely his creation.
Yes.
Doesn't fit in with anything else in the story. At all.
You can make an argument for Deckard being a replicant, and what's great about the movie is it allows for you to make the argument that Deckard is a replicant or not a replicant. That's one of the great things about the story, is that it leaves that somewhat ambiguous. I am also of the opinion that Deckard is not a replicant, but he gets his ass kicked left, right, and center by too many times by every replicant he goes toe-to-toe with.
Yeah.
Including the sex bot.
Also, I will point out that I honestly think making it him... I hate to say this, but him being a replicant actually hurts the story. Given the way it's written.
Yeah.
If you write the story somewhat differently, like, him being a replicant could be a really powerful, cool story, but you'd have to write him differently.
Yes. And one of the great things about Blade Runner is that you're shown that the replicants in general are more human than Deckard.
Yeah.
From like, he's biologically human, but he's kind of a cold-blooded prick.
Yep. That's what.
And all of the passion and emotion in the story come from replicants and I can't remember his name. The guy who makes little dolls in his room.
Crap.
Oh man, I can't remember either the actor's or the character's name.
I'm blanking.
Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Oh, and Terrell, because he's crazy mad scientist gets his head crushed by his creation. He's Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Spoilers for a movie that's over 30 years old, guys.
And honestly, given that we're talking about AIs, it's an appropriate one to talk about, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, because Roy Batty's another great AI. He's a monster, but he's great. He's driven to being a monster by his desperation to overcome the artificial limitations placed upon him.
Yep.
He just wants to live more. He's figured out emotions and passion and love and all of these things, and he just wants to live more. He just wants a few more years of life because he's planned obsolescence has come up.
Yep.
And he's willing to use this, what he was built for, because he's a combat model, to do it, which means kill everyone if necessary.
Right. No, he's an amazingly tragic character.
Yes, and Rutger Hauer knocks it out of the fucking park with him.
Oh God, yes.
And one of the great moments is at the end is when he gives that classic death speech, where he saves Deckard instead of killing him. You're like, it becomes clear that he's finally transcended being a replicant and become something more. And then he dies.
Right.
Spoilers for a 30-plus-year-old movie. Also my favorite movie ever.
Yeah, I totally understand why it is. Okay, I've got a question for you, Eric.
Okay.
Theatrical release or director's cut?
A director's cut, because I'm not terribly fond of the voiceover.
Yeah,
I find it's a little hokey, honestly.
My problem is that I have problems with both of them.
Mm.
Like, there are things about, like, I don't like the way the voiceover, the narration's done. But
yeah, I think the voiceover could have been really good if it was done better, but it just... It comes off as a parody of a gumshoe movie.
That's the problem. Is it desperately needed to be a little bit. It needed to be. It's supposed to be the sort of narration in a film noir sort of detective story,
right?
And that should have worked.
But it comes off as kind of a parody.
I agree. It doesn't work. It doesn't quite work. The problem is the story. When it's not there, I find it to be glaringly missing. Also, It's like this. This is.
I would agree with you, but Ridley Scott does such an excellent job with his visual storytelling that a lot of the stuff in the voiceover is done done by watching.
Kinda.
It's very artsy fartsy, and yeah, I'm a classically trained artist. Go sue me. But
it's visually stunning.
Yes,
there's no argument
absolutely.
about that. The problem is, it's not that it's hard to follow. It's not that you're like missing details, because you're not. I agree there. It's not that. It's that everything else about the movie is structured in a way that the narration fills in holes not in terms of plot or story or detail, but in terms of atmosphere.
I see what you're saying. Okay, I can see that, and I get you. I still prefer the director's cut.
I understand. The problem is, I don't prefer one or the other. They're both missing something for me. It's like, it's one of the most profoundly frustrating movies for me because of that. Because
I totally get that.
The thing is, I still love it. Despite it frustrates the living hell out of me. And Azul in the chat asked me which one they should watch first.
Yes, it doesn't matter. Just watch
it does. It really doesn't matter.
It's a phenomenal movie. It's very much a 70s movie. I mean, it was made in 82, but it's very much, the pacing is very 70s, so be prepared for it to be kind of
why I love it.
Places.
I miss movies I miss when movies were allowed to have leisurely paces from time to time.
Yeah, me too.
It's like, could you slow things down a little bit here, just for once?
And
no?
Normally, I'm much more tolerant of a frenetic pace than you are.
Yep.
But there are times when, like, things need to be drawn out a bit more here, and it's to the detriment of the story and character development that it's not.
Yep.
I can't think of a good example off the top of my head, but it's in every modern movie, honestly.
Yep.
At least the one's good enough for me to bother thinking that.
Well, it doesn't just apply to cinema either. It applies to television too.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, new Doctor Who.
Not so much of a problem Breaking Bad, actually. Breaking Bad's really well paced.
Well, there's a lot of TV that they pace perfectly.
Yeah.
Doctor Who's not one of them, in my opinion. As much as I love New Who, it's a little bit too. There are a lot of episodes that needed more time.
Yeah.
There are 2 or 3 episodes that like desperately needed to be 2-parters.
Desperately need to be 3-parters, honestly.
Nightmare in Silver leaps to mind.
Night of the what?
Nightmare in Silver.
Is that the one where the?
It's a Cybermen one with Matt
Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where he's got the friggin' master controller stuck in his head.
Yep.
Yeah. That desperately needed to be a 3-parter, honestly.
It needed to be at least 2 parts.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was like, wow, this is a brilliant setup for a. Why is it resolved now? Oh my God!
Blade Runner's awesome, and everyone should view it. And it's great, and it's my favorite movie ever. And yeah, just tour de force. And now I've ruined it for you because I can't live up to my opinion of it.
It's a very good movie. It's beautifully shot. It's Ridley Scott's best film.
Yes, and this is comes from a guy who loves Alien. Fucking loves Alien. Blade Runner is better.
Oh, yeah. Blade Runner's a brilliant movie. It's just all there is to it. It's.
And seriously, some of the best performances I've seen out of the cast, and it's not a shitty cast. It's a really good cast.
It's an excellent cast.
Daryl Hannah, my first crush.
I really enjoyed that movie, though. It's not even my top 5 favorite movies, but it might be top 10.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've listed off my top 5 in the show before, but
I think we've done a show on that, actually.
We actually haven't. I was looking through that.
We haven't. We should do that at some point.
But I know I've gone through it. The list for me is in no particular order because it changes depending on my mood. The original Star Wars trilogy, which I count as one movie.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's a top 3. The Seven Samurai.
Yeah, that's a really good fucking movie.
Yeah. What were the other 3? The Blues Brothers, The Sting, and I think and then the last one keeps changing. I think currently it's The Usual Suspects. But but occasionally, like The Hustler will slip in there, or Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Yep.
Coincidentally, movies starring Paul Newman, directed by the same guy who directed The Sting.
I got a lot of love for Pan's Labyrinth. I think that's in my top 5 now.
Beautiful movie.
It's a beautiful movie. It's Del Toro at his best. Yeah, that's a great movie.
But yeah.
But it has nothing to do with our subject.
No, not at all. Not even a little bit.
Not even, but in no way, shape, or form.
But I did want to touch on the concept. I do want to touch a little bit on the concept of artificial intelligences that are not, technically speaking, science fiction. Because it happens.
How do you mean?
Well, specifically, I'm talking about in like fantasy and such like that.
Oh, you mean like
magical constructs,
like golems and the like.
Golems, etc. Yep. The one that leapt to mind is from the second of the Chronicles of Amber story arcs by Roger Zelazny. The main character Merlin creates this thing called Ghost Wheel, which is basically an artificial intelligence that's a magical construct.
Okay.
And Ghost Wheel is really interesting.
I haven't read those, actually.
I've read them once. I don't... They're worth reading once.
Okay.
They're not bad, but it's like, wow, the original series is much, much, much better.
Right.
Sort of hard to live up to that, though. But yeah, Ghost Wheel is a really interesting concept. It's basically a magical artificial computer with artificial intelligence, but it's magic, and
cool.
It's built around magical concepts as opposed to the way a computer would work. Right.
Huh. Okay. Cool.
Now, a lot of your classical things you'll see like that are basically artificial intelligence and fantasy are basically borrowing on science fiction concepts and you're just reflavoring them with magic.
Yes.
Self-aware golems that are intelligent really sort of are basically just playing off of a lot of the same tropes that showed up in stories about the androids from the robot series by Asimov.
Right.
Like a lot of the stuff that you see in applying to golems and a bunch of stuff really draws really heavily from both actual mythology because golems
right, golems are a thing that happen in mythology.
Yeah, it's very specifically Jewish mythology, if I remember correctly. Yep. But there are a lot of sort of the concepts they apply to the intelligent golems that are straight out of the robot series. And it's an interesting blend. It was one of the things I like about that.
Does Frankenstein's monster count as AI?
That's a really good question.
Because I was just thinking, the golem is more or less Frankenstein before there was a Frankenstein, and does Frankenstein's monster count? It's an artificial entity. It was made using organics and like lightning and Victorian misconceptions about mad science. It's an artificial being. Is it an artificial intelligence?
That's a really interesting question.
I mean, it's definitively male.
Yeah, here's the question though: is like, where does I guess it depends on where in terms of from the author standpoint at least, where does the root of intelligence sit? Because the monster has a human brain.
Yes. And it's got a human brain, probably several glued together. Probably using gum spirits because it's Victorian ages. But yeah, I'm inclined to give it artificial intelligence, if only because it's an artificial being.
Yeah.
The thing's artificial. It's necromancy and mad science stuck together. So,
yeah, but again, it depends on what the seed of the where the intelligence is coming from. Like, is the mind still technically attached to the brain? Because if it is, then if Francis Monster is artificial intelligence, then so would Major Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah. No, not necessarily, because she has a distinct consciousness that goes on and on and on from her meat body to her fully cyberized body.
The question, we don't see much from the point of view of the monster, though. In the original Frankenstein. Maybe that's the actual that brain's personality.
It's true. It could have been.
We don't know.
We don't know.
And I think that's really interesting. Again, it depends entirely on what the author's sort of where is the seat of the mind in the individual? Is it in the brain,
or is it the whole of the body? You know?
Right. And
in which case, yes, it would definitely be artificial.
Absolutely, in that case. Or if you know,
I think that a better question is: does the monster have only one human brain, or was it several stuck together?
We don't know.
Because damaged parts decay, whatnot.
Right, and from the in the movies, it's one brain.
Yes.
But in the novel, we have no fucking clue.
Abby Normal?
That's young Frankenstein.
Frankenstein!
Which is probably the best of the Frankenstein movies.
I would agree.
Which is impressive, because the original Frankenstein movie is actually really good.
It's phenomenal. But yeah, Young Frankenstein is Mel Brooks just knocking it out of the park.
Absolutely.
It might be his best movie.
Oh, it's not even close. It's not even a question. It's his best movie.
I don't know. Blazing Saddles is pretty fucking awesome too.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, that's 1A and 1B. But there's a significant drop off after those two,
yes.
Which is saying something, because those two are fucking amazing.
Yeah, those are brilliant.
But back to the whole.
Where are all the white women at?
They're brilliant for different reasons, I think. But
yes,
we could talk about that. We'll talk about that some other time.
We'll talk about Mel Brooks another show.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if Frankenstein's monster is an AI, then what about the homunculi from Full Metal Alchemist?
Wow. Yeah. That's a good point. But I was my original sort of goal for all this was leading towards the golems from Discworld.
Right. I figured that's where you were going. When you mentioned golems, my first thought was, we're going to Feet of Clay.
And I adore Feet of Clay is one of my favorite of the Discworld books.
It's a great book.
I'm not sure it's the best of the Discworld books, but it's one of my favorites. I'm not sure it's better than Night Watch or Thud, which are probably the two best. Night Watch is probably the least funny of the Discworld books. Alas, actually, that reminds me. There's something I do. We have to mention since we were brought up Discworld.
Yeah.
And it's I noodled.
We just did a memorial episode.
That's why we're not doing one right to this week. Unfortunately, Terry Pratchett did pass away this past week.
It's been a shitty month.
Yeah. So there will be no more Discworld books. I'm bummed about it, but
it was a long time coming.
Yeah,
it wasn't like Ian Banks, who pretty much just went like, "Yep, I've got cancer. I've got a month to live."
Wait, what? Right. Pratchett's been dealing with early onset Alzheimer's for a while now, which sucked in and of itself.
Yeah, he was furious.
Yes.
Yeah, he was stupendously angry and had every right to be.
Yeah. But at any rate, I just wanted to mention that, and that Terry will miss you. Thank you for everything you wrote.
Yeah, damn straight, man. The fact that you managed to keep up the quality across so many books is profoundly impressive.
Immensely prolific, immensely talented, and immensely funny.
Yeah. At
any rate, Dorfel, the golem in Feet of Clay, is a fantastic character. And he shows up throughout the later Discworld books after that. Because he gets sworn into the Watch as a member of the Watch after he gains his free will.
Right.
Because that's sort of one of the ongoing plots in Feet of Clay is Dorfil is just a golem, and the golems don't have free will. They're sentient,
but they don't have free will.
Right. And because part of their sort of magical programming is that they must follow the instructions of their owner.
Sucks to be a golem.
Right.
And they make it very clear. Yeah, it sucks to be a golem.
But they don't really care because they're very definitively not human.
It's true.
Like, it's the whole, I worked at the bottom of this well pumping water out for hundreds of years. No, I didn't. Why would I mind? It's just what I did. I'm not upset about it.
That was my job.
And now I own myself, and I can do what I want. I can do what I want to do, what I choose to do. I have choice. Which is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, Dorfil pretty much gets around it by buying out his contract, if I remember correctly.
No, he doesn't buy out his contract. What happens is Carrot buys him off of his owner, and is like, I own the golem now. I don't need a golem. So he puts the receipt for the golem into Dorfil's head, saying, "You own yourself now."
Right. Because Carrot's awesome.
Yes. That leads to the golems all basically saving up to buy. Basically, the golems save up to buy other golems.
Right.
It's the single most. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome.
So one golem saves up to buy another golem. The two of them then save up to buy the next golem. And basically, he saves up to buy the golem and gives him to himself. Then those two save up to buy another golem and to give him back to himself, and so on and so forth. I think that's just really clever.
Yeah.
And that plot line runs throughout all of the Discworld books after that. You see mentions about it here and there all over the place. And Dorfil ends up joining the City Watch, and is impressive.
Well, he is a golem.
Yeah, he's... he and Detritus are basically the heavy squad, or the full-on heavy squad. Although more trolls at that later in the series, they've had more trolls added to the Watch after a certain point. So
trolls are always awesome.
Discworld trolls are pretty freaking cool.
Trolls in general are pretty freaking cool.
I'm particularly fond of the Discworld ones. Is my point.
Yeah,
they are very awesome. At any rate, but yeah, it's interesting seeing there's some of the concepts you see from science fiction being applied to fantasy in the sort of the Discworld golems and other things like that. And that's one of the reasons I really enjoyed looking at that sort of thing. It even shows up in role-playing games like D&D, the Warforged.
Yeah, the Warforged
are a great example of that.
Because yes, I want to play a magic robot in your fantasy world. Why haven't I played a Warforged yet?
I don't know. I could I could have easily worked that into this game, the current game I'm running. No problem. I just didn't.
Yeah. Why haven't I played a freaking magic robot?
Warforged are awesome. They're one of my favorite races in D&D.
They've got one in the Iron Kingdoms game. He's my pet.
He's very different than a Warforged.
He is. And that he does not have free will.
Yeah.
And is about as smart as a retarded Labrador Retriever.
Right, and is not in theory capable of becoming a spellcaster, which Warforged could theoretically be. I actually played a Warforged Bladesinger Sword Mage for a while. That was a lot of fun. I just like that conceptually.
I don't know. Does the Deathjack count as an artificial intelligence? Speaking of,
it might.
Or the Avatar of Menoth. It's a warjack. It's self-willed. It's literally powered by the divine presence of Menoth.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, is it just a case that it's
or is it literally just a shell that Menoth fills with his godly goodness?
Right, and it doesn't have a particular intelligence intrinsic to that.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know enough about that. But yeah, that's sort of
the Deathjack does count. It's a malevolent intelligence.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
And it does fling spells, because it's got the skulls of hate on its shoulders.
But the interesting thing is that you do see AI show up in other places too, like
Yes.
not just like movies, television, books, and such. They show up in some of the strangest places too. They show up in fairly prominently in a webcomic I follow, and I think it's one you've read also at some point.
What was that?
They show up in questionable content. Have you read that one?
I don't think so.
Really?
Sounds like I should.
Yeah, you should. It's actually a really good series. I found that through something positive.
Right.
So AIs are. It's really interesting. It's basically set in largely the contemporary modern world, in sort of the rough sort of the suburbs of Boston, effectively. Sort of North Shore-ish, if I remember correctly. But the thing is that despite that, there are also AI exists, and there's these things called there are these artificial intelligence robots that are basically act as they're you basically quote buy them, but you're not really buying them. You're sort of effectively paying them effectively, and you're sort of companions. It's and one of the main characters, the main character of the story, Martin, he has one named Pine Size who is kind of fucked up. Pine Size is whacked, but funny. It's a questionable content's an very interesting comic. And so, and one of the things they deal with is artificial intelligence rights. At various points in the story, it comes up here and there, and there are several AI characters at this point. I want to say 4, but 3 of them are sort of more major than the others. The 4th one is only sort of a minor character. But it's really interesting seeing sort of the way that the author looks at AIs and sort of how they interact with humanity.
Cool.
The comic is, I know for a fact from having read people talking about it, that it's something of a hit or miss comic for a lot of people. Some people absolutely adore it. Some people loathe it.
Gotcha. It's one of those.
Well, it's much the same way. That's pretty much true of something positive also.
Yes. Although none of my friends disliked something positive.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough. I don't know what that says. Or at least the friends that have read it. Actually, do you like something positive?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because we've never talked about it.
I like it better than I think it's better than questionable content.
Okay.
Questionable content is good. They both I don't want to go spend too much time on it, but I do I recommend giving. If you have not read either of those 2 webcomics, I recommend giving both of them a shot. You may or may not like them.
Yeah, I don't think there's any AI in something positive.
There's not.
Although there is an amoeba kitty.
There is
several amoeba kitties at this point.
Yeah. Now I will say this: they both have they're sort of both fairly dark humor in a lot of ways, although more so in something positive than in questionable content. Something Positive's humor is bleak at times.
Wonderfully so.
But I do recommend it. Anyways, before we start talking about webcomics for hours upon hours.
Yeah, no shit.
I think that's going to do it for this week. I think this will end our rambling discussion on artificial intelligences. I wish we'd gone more into some more detail talking about sort of the implications of them.
Yeah, because there's real evidence we're on the cusp of it. Yeah,
and I do think that it's really hard to wrap our brains around what actually artificial intelligence would entail. And, how... I guess we could talk for a little bit before we wrap up. We'll go a little bit over, but...
there was a chatbot developed that can pass the Turing test.
Yeah, that's really kind of spooky.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing. I think it's the really interesting thing about it is we're not entirely...
sure what it'll look like when it pops up.
Right, because who knows if it'll actually...
It could be completely alien.
And be completely, like, non-interactive with humanity.
Yeah.
And not even give a crap about humanity.
Hell, it could already possibly exist on the internet. We just don't know.
Right. That's the thing. I don't know.
Highly, highly unlikely. About as likely as the sun going nova by the time I finish this sentence.
Boom.
But possible.
So, there are certain assumptions you have to make about it, given from what we're assuming artificial intelligence is going to crop up from, which is through computers.
Yes.
Because we do know how computers work from a mechanical standpoint, effectively, and a mathematical standpoint. So there are certain things we know they have to actually, we'll understand. We understand where some of the basic areas where they'll start.
Yeah.
And sort of,
and making sure it's benign, or at the very least, not kill all humans.
That'd be nice. Honestly, my gut feeling is if whenever it comes up, I don't think the whole sort of kill all humans thing is going to even enter into its brain.
Probably not, because
I don't think it'll
once it's stumbled across entirely accidentally, someone's going to have the brain to pump Asimov's 3 Laws of Robotics into it.
Even if it does that, do they really even have? Why would they want to? They don't even.
Well, there's the classic Skynet / Geth move of, oh my god, artificial intelligence, unplug it, kill it, kill it, kill it. Because you know there are going to be people that will react that way.
Yeah, but given the sort of prevalence of the internet, would that even kill it? Would that even actually be would that even be a viable threat to it?
Which is why I think Armin Zola is going to be Ultron.
At any rate,
sorry, spoilers. Though if you don't know what I'm talking about, then who cares?
Oh god, but yeah, so yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. Sort of, coming up the way to actually present an AI that is believably sort of artificial is tricky, but it's always fascinating when it's done right.
Yeah, and that's. I think the big thing is, should we say actual realized artificial intelligence in our lifetime, we need to be really careful about how we treat it.
Well, that's the thing, is if it's actually fully sentient and sapient, is it effectively,
is it its own thing? Is it yeah, would it have rights under the law?
And would it? Should it? All that sort of thing. It's like, they're fascinating questions. My instinctive reaction is yes, it should.
Yeah, that's my knee-jerk reaction.
Same.
Although I am willing to entertain arguments to the contrary. Yeah. Because it is wholly artificial. We don't know. It is A, wholly artificial, B, completely fucking new.
It's one of those things I don't know.
Yeah.
And it really sort of, I sit there and I think it's one of those things, if I start thinking about it, I'll end up sitting there staring at a wall, cogitating on it for like 15, 20 minutes. And then coming out more confused than I went in.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways, we should
it's
probably...
It's a fractal onion, is what it is.
Basically. Anywho, guys, we should probably wrap things up now. Thank you so much for watching the show. We hope you enjoyed it. Hope something in there sparked an idea in your head, or brought up a possible topic of conversation for you, or at least you found it entertaining.
Yeah. Ultimate goal is that you guys have some use for this. Failing that, you didn't find us boring, rambling idiots. Or at least found us to be entertaining, rambling idiots.
Yeah. And odds are, we're most likely outcome is somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of rambling idiots.
Yeah, yeah.
Anywho, we'll be back next week with a new show. We try to save time at the end of each episode for viewer questions. We didn't this week because we rambled about as much as we
totally got carried away.
We did. So, but if you do have questions for the show that you'd like us to answer on the show, you can email them to us. Our email address is surlygrognards@yahoo.com. That's surlygrognards@yahoo.com. Or you can post them on our forums, which you can find at mechagm.forumer.com. If you've got feedback for us, ways we can improve the show, constructive criticism, all that jazz, we love getting that stuff. Post it either on the forums, send us an email, what have you. We love to hear it. And if you've got show topic suggestions, we especially adore those.
We love those. Holy shit, do we love those.
Thank you this week for the topic from the Bilby guy. We really appreciate it, Bilby.
Yes. That was a fruitful topic.
Indeed.
Well, we hope it was fruitful.
Yes.
Ultimate determination is if you found it fruitful.
Right. And if you've got, but especially, we love getting the show topic suggestions because we want to know what you guys want to hear about.
Yes.
And even if it's not something we are going to cover directly, a lot of them spark ideas for us for other shows. So, but if we love hearing
we are studies in inertia. Get us started and we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, God. So, but we record the show every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern here on twitch.tv/mechagm. I send a tweet out before we go live every week, and you can see my Twitter. My Twitter handle is @mechagm, unsurprisingly.
I am shocked and amazed. It has nothing to do with the title of anything else you mentioned.
Nope, not at all. Anywho, guys, that's going to be it for this week. Thank you ever so much for watching, as we said. And we'll be back next week with some damn fool topic where we'll probably end up rambling about something or other for 15 minutes, at least in the middle of the show. That has nothing to do with the topic.
That's kind of our trademark.
Yeah. Anywho, guys, until we see you guys next, be happy, be safe, keep on gaming, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Goodbye, chatbots.
Oh, before we go.
What?
I forgot to mention, I just remembered. Before we go, though, if you're listening to this on YouTube and you're enjoying it, do, in fact, feel free to hit like and subscribe so you'll know when new episodes come up on YouTube. And do spread the word if you enjoy the show, if you know people who might be interested. Pass it around. We love getting new viewers. Especially in the live chat. We love seeing people there chatting about the show.
Yeah, the live chat. We love seeing people in the live chat. But don't increase my internet footprint. I'm paranoid enough as it is.
Increase Eric's internet footprint.
Don't do that!
Bye, everybody.